As the clock struck midnight, the world outside fell silent, enveloped in a shroud of darkness. But in a small, flickering light apartment, Emma sat alone, her heart racing as shadows danced along the walls. She stared at the screen of her laptop, where the live chat was buzzing with activity. Her voice trembled as she greeted the viewers tuning in for her late-night stream, titled The Darkest Hour. Little did they know, she wasn't just broadcasting for entertainment, she had a story to share that haunted her every waking moment. "What do you fear most?" Emma asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The comments rolled in a mix of playful banter and serious confessions from her followers. The dark, loneliness, the unknown. But Emma felt the weight of her own fear pressing down on her. What they didn't realize was that something sinister lurked in the corners of her childhood home, something that had reawakened after years of dormancy. She took a deep breath, recalling the night it all began, a night she couldn't shake from her mind. It was years ago when she first heard the whispers. A soft susurration trickled through the darkness, calling her name, weaving its way into her dreams. She had brushed it off as the result of her overactive imagination. Children often concoct terrifying tales in the dead of night, but as a teenager, she knew the difference between reality and fiction, until that night when she awoke to find her bedroom door ajar. As she continued to narrate her experience, the chat went wild with speculation. "Have you thought about going back into the house? Do you think it's haunted?" People were glued to their screens, entranced by her recounting of the supernatural. She frowned, hesitantly revealing that, after years away at college, she had returned home briefly to help her mother clean out the attic. "That's where it all started," Emma said, her voice shaking slightly. The sun had set early that evening, casting long shadows as she rummaged through boxes of old memories. The dust hung thick in the air, and she could hear the floorboards creaking underfoot. As she pulled down an old ornate mirror, it caught the fading light, and for a fleeting moment she felt a chill run down her spine. Glancing into its glassy surface, she swore she saw a figure dart behind her. Just as she turned, there was nothing but empty space, but the feeling of being watched lingered, a weight heavy in her chest. The viewers were enraptured, begging her to tell them more. What happened next? They typed frantically while Emma's heart raced in response to their enthusiasm and her growing dread. That night she had heard those whispers again. Louder this time, undeniable. Emma froze in her bed, the voice mellifluous and chilling, beckoning her from the shadows. "Come and play." Emma described the sensation of being pulled into the darkness, her body heavy with fear yet compelled to move. She felt as though the darkness wanted her, wrapping around her like tendrils, promising secrets and horrors unspoken. I found myself wandering the hallways, entranced, until I stumbled upon the attic door, in unmarked boundaries separating the familiar from the grotesque. The chat erupted, comments flashing across the screen like lightning. "Don't go in. You were so brave." Emma hesitated for a moment as she teased an ominous smile and continued her tale. The attic door creaked open, revealing chaos where old belongings lay mired in shadow. Among them, she discovered her childhood toys, but they felt different, wrong. One particularly eerie doll with glassy eyes seemed to gaze directly into her soul, and suddenly she felt an overwhelming urge to reach out. "Do you ever feel like objects hold memories?" I could almost hear them whispering, she continued, her voice trembling. Suddenly something fell, shattering the fragile stillness and echoing like a gunshot in the quiet. Emma recoiled, gasping as she realized it was a framed photograph, warped and stained, showing her and her friends from years ago, except one face was smudged, the eyes red and haunting, almost as if they were staring back at her. A storm surged in the chat, with spectators shockingly captivated. "Who is that? What does it mean?" The questions poured in, but Emma's attention was locked on that photograph. The atmosphere thickened, charged with something foreboding. Without realizing, she had begun to delve too deep into the mystery. The room felt charged, electric as shadows seemed to close in, her heart racing faster with every passing second. There, a realization struck her, a growing sense of urgency. Those whispers weren't just echoes of the past, they were warnings. "Something is happening," she whispered. She could feel them again, those whispers swirling like smoke, merging into the very fabric of her reality. It is like they were saying... But before she could finish, the screen flickered and her stream momentarily cut out. An audible gasp resonated in the chat, the tide turning from intrigue to panic. Shadows danced inside her room, the lights dimming in response to the unsettling presence she could just feel at the edge of her perception. The air felt thick and suffocating. Emma stared at her reflection in the screen, searching for comfort in familiar features. The chat filled with frantic comments, urging her to check her surroundings. Heart pounding, she reluctantly turned to face the darkness that had crept into her sanctuary. "Please, just let me finish," she pleaded softly into the camera as every impulse screamed at her to flee. The shadows crawled nearer, and her room felt alive with something sinister, past and present converging with dangerous intent. "I didn't want to confront the fears I buried," she confessed, her voice raw with emotion. "But I realized the whispers weren't just haunting my past, they were warnings." As the tension built, the screen flickered once more. The chat was now a whirlwind of uncertainty, and Emma re-engaged, lifting the energy, her passion rekindled. "But that's not the end," she exclaimed, pushing through the mounting dread. She recalled a final night spent in that house. The whispers had peaked, and she was compelled to confront them, the attic now beckoning her like a moth to a flame. "I climbed those stairs with a mix of terror and curiosity, knowing I had to face whatever had been awakened," Emma narrated. The doll sat there still staring, but the mirror, it pulsed like a heartbeat. I could feel its dark energy enveloping me, and with every step closer I realized it was feeding on my fear. In that moment, something grotesque unfurled, a dark, whirling mass of shadows erupted from the mirror, screaming her name. In a moment that felt suspended in time, Emma reached for the doll, grasping it tightly. The whispers morphed into anguished cries for release. Her heart thundered in her chest as she made a desperate choice. She smashed the doll against the mirror. Time froze, and she braced for the reverberation of impact. With an ear-piercing shatter, light spilled forth and the room exploded with sound, disorienting her until darkness enveloped her senses. And then, silence. The stream remained still, the chat unable to comprehend the horror she narrowly escaped. The shadows retreated, but Emma was changed. "It's been years since that night, and I still hear the whispers," she confessed, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "But now, I understand." As she concluded her harrowing tale, the chat erupted into applause, admiration, and questions. "What happened next? Are you okay?" Emma took a deep breath, thankful for the support, but a chill washed over her. She checked the reflection in her laptop one last time and caught a glimpse of something behind her. In that split second, the whispers returned, echoing louder than before as her smile faltered. "But remember, in the darkest hour, the light is only ever a heartbeat away or a whisper, if you're not careful." With that chilling reminder, she smiled nervously towards her audience, urging them with her eyes. A warning to keep the light of understanding close, lest they become lost in their own darkness. "Thank you for joining me on this journey beyond the shadows," she whispered. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe to Lost Legends of Darkness for more tales that linger in the night. Remember, the darkness isn't just something to fear, sometimes it unveils the deepest truths about ourselves. And with those final words, she signed off, leaving an air of uncertainty and curiosity hanging in the silence of the room, the screen dimming to black, but the whispers still echoing on in the hearts of her viewers.